All right, so hopefully everybody can hear me. I will have the replay available. I just saw somebody had a question. So we'll post this in the Bank Card Life Facebook group. So remember, when I reduced the cost of Bank Card Life and made it $1 per year, it was my way of giving back to the industry, giving you guys these tools, these resources that are available to you. So if you're not in the Bank Card Life Training Center, go ahead and email support@bankcardlife.com and we'll get you a username and password. But I've got hours and hours of training and sales training and workbooks and all types of resources for you in the credit card industry, how to recruit and build a sales organization. All that is available to you for the $1 per year. So I want to make sure that you're aware that you have those resources. I'll give you the contact again at the end of the webinar today. So what we're working on are building the fundamentals around strategic planning and then having that strategic planning align with the actions that you want to take to grow your business. And really what I'm going to spend time on today is one of the 4 domains. And if you've read any of our content or looked at our trainings, we talk about body, being, balance, and business. I'm going to talk about the importance of body today and dig a little deeper into there and discuss what I've been doing in this last quarter and how important it is for you to have your body, that one dimension, in alignment with the other so you can produce at your highest levels. So let's go ahead and get started. And I want to set the intention for today for us to really look at who is our competition in the marketplace. Who's the real competition, right? And there's a lot of competitors out there. You know, when I was selling credit card processing back in the 90s and 2000s here in Houston, I'd pull up to get gas and I'd see 3 other credit card guys at the gas station with me. So it's a very, very, very competitive industry. But the real competition that you got out there is the person in the mirror, right? It's you, it's yourself. So what we're trying to do is to create a man or woman that is better, a better version of yourself each and every quarter, that you can live into the yearly targets that you set. So the person that you became or were on January 1st of 2022 is almost unrecognizable by 12/31/22. So we want to take this year and we want to transform ourselves into something better, and we want to expand ourselves. And when we expand ourselves, we expand our business, we expand our relationships, our families. Everything seems to run in sync. So your competition is not the guy at the gas station or the competitor that just walked out the door. Your competition is yourself, right? And what we're trying to do when we do these quarterly targets is to set the frame for how we're going to produce over the next 90 days, what our focus is going to be. And we want to create that compelling future that gets us excited, gets us motivated, that we want to live into, right? So that's the intention, is to create a compelling future over this next 90 days, to get some clarity, to combine that with strategy, and to combine that with action. And that's going to give us the results that we want in our business and in our life. So I'm going to review these pretty quickly, but in my personal development section of the book, you can read through these and I break them down, each component. And this is really what's worked for me. So I look at these areas as 6 domains, right? Purpose, possibility, planning, power, production, and profit. And these 6 domains are areas that I need to be ready and willing to produce in and able to up my game. And when I have alignment across these 6 domains, and the first alignment is purpose and possibility, which we have trainings that I've recorded that you can watch back in the member area about aligning your purpose and your possibility, connecting your purpose with your individual vision, right? And that's critical. So I'm going to assume that you have done and you're in alignment with your purpose and possibility right now. If you've fallen off track with what you feel is your life purpose, and let me give you a hint. Your life purpose is not to be a credit card processing salesperson, right? That's a vehicle so you can realize your purpose, right? Your purpose is something much grander than that. And I hope you've done the work and the workshops that I've got back there that will help you clarify and uncover what your purpose is. The second alignment that needs to come into play is planning and power, right? And we talk about the planning, which is the stage that we're in right now. But in order to execute the plan, you have to access power, right? And that's why we have our daily rituals across those 4 dimensions, body, being, balance, and business, in alignment with your weekly targets that feed into your 90-day plan. So what we're going to work on today is that planning component of the second alignment. Once that's in sync, you've got purpose and possibility, planning, and you're accessing power, then we get into production and profit. This is where the payoff comes, where the production part of your business and your life is what I call doing the work, right? And when we're out producing on a consistent daily basis, that will yield profit in our life. And I'm not talking just about financial profit. I'm talking about spiritual profit and physical profit and all the things that come along, relational profit. When you're pouring into and investing in your family, your children, your spouse, that's going to yield a profit. And life is great when all 3 of these alignments are in sync. The challenge is, as human beings, oftentimes they're never all in sync. There's always 1 or 2 off the beam. So that's our challenge. And then I talk about the 4 dimensions: body, being, balance, and business. We want to sync all these up so everything works like an engine. Every cylinder is humming along. It's striking when it's supposed to, and we are producing at our highest level. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about body. Each quarter I pick a dimension. We'll talk about body, and I'll share some of the things that I had on my target list for this 90 days. So you guys can kind of get a feel for how I look at it and from what context I look at it from. So in your PDF, there's the process of setting your 90-day targets. And I'm not going to walk you through that today because it's outlined pretty clearly. But really what we want to do is assess and review. So you need to look back at the second quarter and go back to Q1 if you need to. You should have done that in Q2. But we want to see, we're halfway through 2020, and what we want to see is if we are on track to hit our yearly targets that we set at the beginning of the year, right? So it's all about closing the gap. And a lot of times I'll talk about the gap, right? And the gap is the reality of where you are today in your business, in your life, and the space between where you are today and where you want to be. And really what life and business about, in my mind, is just about closing that gap. And sometimes we close it in big chunks. Other times it's incremental closing. And sometimes it doesn't feel like we're closing that gap at all, right? So we want to assess and look back at Q2, and let's just see if you get your pen and paper together, you want to write notes, and just kind of brainstorm a little bit and see if you were on track, right? Where did you go off track and where did you stay on track? And just look at the second quarter from a position of outside of who you are, and try to look at it as an observer and just see how you produced, right? How many sales did you make? How many new merchants did you board? How many closes did you have? What did your revenue look like across your business? Did you check and invest in your family and your children like you wanted to? You know, all this is in the daily planner that we have in the back office that you can insert and input your daily rhythms, your daily habits, all in alignment with your weekly planning. But did you check in every week? Did you have a weekly plan? Did you have a structure that you were producing around? And that's really where you have to get honest with yourself, and you have to be rigorously honest if you drop the ball. And oftentimes we create these stories about what we should have done, what we could have done, what we would have done. In reality, it's not the story. The reality is what were the actions that we took and the results that we got from those actions. So if you let COVID control you and you sat back and didn't pick up the phone and make your sales calls, or go out in the field and make your sales calls, it doesn't matter what the story is around it. The reality is you didn't do what you needed to do, right? And if you're off track, you need to get back on track. And you can't let the things in the world distract you from what your purpose is and what you're trying to accomplish, right? So look at Q2, make sure you're in alignment before you start to set targets for Q3. And in some areas, it might be a reset. Other areas, you might be killing it. I know our company has broken all sales records this quarter, and we're doing great. We've hired 4 or 5 people, at least 4 or 5 people. We're growing and expanding from a business perspective, and things are hitting on all cylinders, but there's a lot of work to be done. So take a look at where you're at in each category, in each domain. Next thing you want to do once you get rigorously honest and look where you're at, see if you're in alignment, is you want to start to brainstorm and set new targets. And typically what I'll do is take each area on one piece of paper, body, being, balance, of business, and I'll start to set targets. Now, as we've discussed in past webinars, business has different components, right? You've got different departments depending if you're a one-man operation or you're a larger operation. The larger you get, you want to set targets around different areas of your business, like deployment and fulfillment and operations and finance and accounting and sales and marketing. There's all those different categories. So depending on the complexity of your business, you're going to need to dig a little bit deeper, maybe with some of your team members, on setting targets around the business. And we just went through this exercise yesterday with our company, and we did exactly what's written here on the screen. We reviewed, we brainstormed, we set new targets, we made sure we were still on track. And now the team has an idea, and we have a software that we use to track where they're going for this next quarter, right? So after you brainstorm and set your targets, you want to get really present and get aware and realize the cost of not hitting those targets, and ask yourself a few questions, right? I mean, are these valuable, or are they real targets that you want to set for you? And I see a lot of people oftentimes setting targets that other people want them to achieve, or that targets that they think they should be setting for themselves. Make sure these are real targets for you. And these are things that get you excited, passionate, and things that you want to strive for and want to accomplish. The next question is, what happens? What's the cost if I don't hit these targets, right? What's the cost to your family? What's the cost to your children, your business, if you don't hit these targets that you set for yourself? What's your cost to your spiritual connectedness and relationship with God? What's the financial consequences of you not hitting these targets? And you need to really get present to what's going to happen to your life if you don't hit these targets. And we're trying to hit targets that are big targets, right? If you're running 5 miles 4 days a week, and your target for the second quarter is to run 5 miles 5 days a week, I guess it would depend incrementally where you are in your life. If you're a little older like me, that might be a good target. But if you're younger, that's not much of a stretch, is it? I mean, the goal might be, instead of 5 miles 3 days a week, might be to complete a half marathon at the end of the 90 days, right? We want to set a target that stretches you each and every quarter, so you can become that unrecognizable person in 12 months. So once you realize the cost, it's time to make the commitment. Are you truly committed to the targets that you have set, and willing to do whatever it takes to reach those targets? So that's our process, and I walk you through that in the PDF. So please do that on your own time. I typically set 1 to 2 hours aside of quiet time to work through my 90-day targets. I'm always reviewing them, looking at them, keeping them at the forefront of my mind. I know many, many years ago, before I started doing this, I would set goals. And one thing we would do a lot with our family is set goals at the beginning of the year, which is kind of neat, because I've got goals from my kids back to the 90s that I can pull up. But the problem was, once we set the goals, we never looked at them again for the rest of the year. So oftentimes I forgot what they were. So doing this and chunking it down into 90-day increments has really made a difference in my production and my life. And I would say I've been doing this pretty consistently, probably for 6 or 7 years. And it's really, really made a difference in how we achieve things. And as your organization grows and it gets larger, it's just something you have to take the time to make sure everybody's rowing the boat in the same direction, right? That we're all headed as a company in the same direction. So I'll leave it up to you to finish that process and do the work. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the body domain and how important that body domain is. And I'm not just talking about physical fitness. So let's talk a little bit about how I see and view the body, right? And the reasons why we should even care about the state of our body or our physical health. So I kind of look at the body as a tool, and it's the engine for my production, right? And the body, the physical side of it, is a way that I can access power, and I call that energy. Okay. And some of you on the call are probably different ages, but as you get a little older, your energy sometimes dips a little bit. So it's a challenge oftentimes is to maintain that energy and to be able to access that power. So I think the body, maintaining the body is critically important. And it's also important for your quality of life, your longevity. When you get, I'm a pretty avid tennis player, so I need to make sure I have other things working in my body like flexibility, mobility, etc. And I kind of look at it as a gift that I'm responsible for to keep in shape, right? So I can produce what I want. So when you weaponize your body and your body is in sync and your health is good, that means that you can access the other dimensions at a higher level, the being, the balance, and your business, right? So I just think it's critical that we maintain and keep this body running at the highest levels that it can. So I'm talking about these different components of health. Of course, we have the physical side of it. The way that I've talked about this in the past is when we set these 90-day targets, I've seen people accomplish more when they're driving towards an event or a certain challenge that they have set for themselves. So for instance, let's take the example I was just talking about. And I was a runner for 25 years till I had knee issues, but I would run every week consistently, but I was really doing it, especially when the children were young, because I could walk out the door, run 4 or 5 miles, get back, go to work, and I could stay in relatively good fitness. But I felt that I produced at a higher level when I was driving towards something. And remember, we either drive away from something, we're moving away, or we're moving towards something. So when I had a race or an event or a fun run, I typically produce more. So if you've got something that interests you, you can knock out a lot of birds, with a couple actions. Let's say you want to have a tennis tournament coming up or a cycling event. In order to produce at a high level, you're going to have to work out. You're going to have to watch your nutrition. You're going to have to probably get good sleep, and you're going to have to hydrate. So those are some of the main components of health that you can go towards that one event or that one challenge and knock out a lot of this, taking supplements, etc. So I like to set targets that are towards outcomes. And many of you that did the yearly target setting with me, that we spent a couple hours really mapping out the year. I had said that I wanted to become a top 10 ranked tennis player in my age division in 2022. And I had the same goal in 2021 until COVID canceled the tournaments. And then this year I had a couple injuries that I couldn't overcome. So, I set that target and was driving towards it, but haven't been able to achieve it. So I readjusted and I'm going to hit that one again for 2023. So it's not just the physical, it's the nutrition, it's your food intake, your supplementation, and most importantly, it's self-care and maintenance. And what I see a lot of men do, I don't know if this is true for women, but a lot of men don't even go to an annual physical, right? And it's about having your annual physical, getting your blood work, having your dental taken care of, having lab work done, all the components of self-care that we need to do so we can stay on top of our game. So if you're not doing any of that, one of your targets might be this next quarter is to go get an annual physical, get your labs done, have your cholesterol checked, your blood work, etc., and make sure you're maintaining your body so you can at least produce at a normal level, right? So all these things are critical: sleep, hydration, stress reduction. You know, when we talk about being, I talk about meditation, prayer, reading, etc., that gets you in a place where you can reduce those stress levels. And certainly when you're running your own business, stress levels can get pretty intense. So the body, for me, helps me sweat out a lot of that stress, helps me get my mind and my focus off of any issues that might be bothering me, and takes me to a place where I can just be with my body. I can be present, and I can focus on getting my body as in best shape as I can, so I can produce at the highest levels. So, one of the things I did this quarter, let me go back. One of the things I did this quarter for myself was I wanted to get stem cell treatment. So I had looked at it, researched it, and I'd highly recommend Tony Robbins' new book. I think it's called Life Force, and I read it probably 6 months ago. And there's a guy in there, Dr. Neil Rorden, that has a medical practice here in Dallas. I'm in Houston, but he also owns a clinic in Panama where they do these expanded stem cell injections. And I really started to research and look at it, and I decided, you know what, I want to do it. So I contacted him, got all the stuff set up. It was a little bit of work getting the labs together, all the things that they wanted, but I just got back 2 weeks ago from Panama from getting 152 million mesenchymal stem cells injected in my knees, my feet, my shoulders, and then IV therapy. So I'll keep you guys up to date on how that goes. They say it takes 2 to 12 weeks, but one of the things I noticed immediately was after 40 years of tennis in my right shoulder, I had some rotator issues and some standard osteoporosis. And, my right shoulder's been completely fine. I've been able to sleep better and already have noticed some things. So whether it's placebo or real, I don't care. I'm getting the results. So I'll check in next quarter, let you guys know how I feel and how it worked. But that was something for me that I had to make an investment in myself that I was committed to doing, along with all the workouts that I do. And there's a video I did some time ago where I went through my daily routine. And if you're looking at building out and accessing power daily, you might go back in the member area, watch that, how I build out my daily routine and what I do in the mornings, what I do at night, and how I try to stay at peak performance as best I can. So that's what I did this quarter. Next quarter, my goals just maintain and recover. I can't work out for a month heavily, but I'm getting back into some stretching, some yoga, Pelotoning, of course, and some weightlifting on the upper body. So we'll see how it goes next quarter. So set those targets for yourself and really try to challenge yourself depending where you're at in your physical life. If you're a little older, you hadn't worked out for 20 years, 15 years, 10 years, just start walking a couple days a week, right? Drink a lot of water, walk, go see your doctor first, so you can kind of see what your baseline is and where you're starting from. Okay, so that's my little diatribe on body. So you've gone through your targets, your goals, worked through the PDF, and some of the other things I wanted to share with you is and what I talked about earlier is how to implement this stuff throughout the organization. So the first thing you do is get this locked down, this process, this habit, get this 90-day planning locked down, and then you want to implement it through your organization, right? And I promise you, if it's working for you, and I know it will, and there's other workshops you can take around this. We've talked about the one thing, and we've talked about EOS and scaling up. There's lots of different things that you can do from a business perspective to get your planning together and get it on point. But then you want to implement it throughout the organization. And I promise you, you will notice the results throughout the organization if you start to do this quarterly planning. And it gives you an idea where your people are at. It gives you an idea what they're thinking, what resources they need, what help they need, and where you're going to take the business. So it's very, very, very critical. So we're about here at wrap up. I hope if any of you have questions, go ahead and pop it in the Q&A. Hopefully we won't have too many questions. I wanted to try to get out of here in about 30, 45 minutes. So I would close with asking you, a couple questions like I do every time we do these webinars is, you're planning and looking at what you want to become, right? And you're looking at these targets of what you want to achieve. But the person you are today oftentimes is not going to be able to get you to those targets. You've got to become a different person. And you have to become a different person mentally, physically, and emotionally. And that's why these 4 domains are so critical. I just encourage you, when you look back at body, being, balance, and business, and just realize they all have to be synergistic. They all work together. If you're really falling down in one area, you need to focus on that area this quarter. If you're working 12 hours a day and neglecting your family, I promise you that will come back to bite you in the butt, because then the family is going to be an issue. And if the family is an issue, you can't focus on the business. So nip it now if there's an area you need to focus on, and figure out who you need to become in order to achieve that target. And not only who do you need to become, but what would your life look like if you were living as this person that would achieve these goals and targets that you set for yourself? I mean, would you get up an hour earlier every day? Would you spend an hour on yourself in the morning? Would you focus on your body another 1 to 2, 3 hours a week? What would your life look like if you had to live as a person that was living at this level of production? And then maybe ask yourself a question of, how would you show up for the people in your life? How would you show up for your family, your teammates, your employees? How would you show up for yourself, right? Because at the beginning of this, we identified the real competition, and the real competition is you. So if you can create and fill that gap from where you are today and where you want to be, you're winning, right? You're winning and beating your competition. You're being better, a better version of yourself, and expanding who you are. And when you expand who you are, everything around you expands. So how are you going to show up this quarter for your family, your company, your ISO, your vendors, your business relationships, your customers, your clients, and most importantly, for yourself? And all these things we're talking about is an investment in you, right? When you produce and flourish, everything else around you will. So ask yourself those questions. Make sure these are the right targets for you. Make sure this is what you really want to accomplish this quarter, and just sit down and get honest with yourself. And I wish you the best. I know you're going to do well. I'm happy if you want to email and support or post anything in the group. More than happy to answer those questions. And just remember, you're the architect, right? You're the one that's creating and crafting this. And that's what's exciting about life. We have the opportunity to create it from a blank canvas each and every quarter. We can wipe that last quarter away, regardless of what happened. If we had some wins, great, but now it's time to move to the next quarter. And you're the architect, right? So you want to make sure, if you're the architect and the creator, that you're playing, that you're getting down on the field and you're taking action, right? It all comes down to taking action. All this other work that we do is to get your mindset in the right place, to get your heart in the right place, and get you mentally prepared to take the actions you need to take. So remember, it's your choice. I wish you the best quarter ever. And please let me know if you have questions. Do the work, sit down, put the time in, and I promise you, you will get great results. We'll see you next quarter. Have a great one.